beautiful day and everybody was in the best spirits. It was something that we were really looking forward to because we believed that we'd progress. We thought that Everton might progress and we want to get this Merseyside Cup final.
It was just Saturday afternoon. I was just at home pottering about as you do, not doing anything significant. Just Saturday afternoon. Make a cup of tea, or I can't remember. It was just a quiet Saturday afternoon.
A bright sunny April day. It was really warm. I was excited about the semi. I've been the year before to Sheffield. I thought, well, same result will do, 2-1. I remember John Aldridge getting both goals the year before. That'll do nicely, thank you.
The police inspector is on the pitch, and they've come through the barriers, and I can only think that's overcrowding. It doesn't look to me to be any sort of misbehaviour.
It was a sunny spring Saturday afternoon. Thousands of football fans arrived at a neutral venue and the stage was set for an FA Cup semi-final. For one set of fans, the dreams of a trip to Wembley were just 90 minutes away from becoming a reality. It could be any year, but 1989 changed the lives of many and the face of football forever.
Had a profound effect on me watching that, not just as a Liverpool fan but as a human being.
It was a significant event and something I'll never forget. But as a reporter, that's these things can happen at any time, can't they? It could happen to someone. God forbid, tomorrow something could happen. But you just have to, that's what your job is.
I actually thought I was going to die. I couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep a wink all night. I had bruised, cracked ribs and all this, and chest problems, which he said you'll have for the rest of your life, and I do. I have chest problems still now. Say it's the PTSD was the worst bit. Nightmares, panic attacks, flashbacks, low self-esteem, paranoia. It's a long list of things.
54,000 football fans went to the Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield, and 95 never went home. Decades on, many feel that justice has never been done, but a full generation are unaware of this tragedy and the impact it had. Just as the year before, Liverpool and Nottingham Forest met for an FA Cup semi-final at Hillsborough Stadium. 1988 had seen an uncomfortable victory for Liverpool, but 1989 was set to see nothing but tragedy. As fans arrived shortly before 3, it became evident, at one end especially, that this year was different.
I had a couple of beers, but nothing to excess. Like every game, you go for a bit of drink and there's no problem. I left the pub about 2:10, and as soon as I entered into Leppings Lane, it was really tight. There was a lot of fans there, and there was people quite irritable and frightened, and there weren't many police about at all directing the fans. There was no trouble. It was just people were just getting, het up about what was happening.
I had a ticket for the Leppings Lane, and about 15 minutes before I swapped it. I'd been trying to swap it, but somebody wanted to go with their mates, and I didn't want to go into the Leppings Lane where I'd been the year before, and it felt uncomfortable because of the sort of the way that the ground was set out.
Confined to the smaller Leppings Lane end, thousands of Liverpool fans built up outside the dilapidated turnstiles. Determined to be in for the kick-off, and in order to escape the imminent crush, fans climbed their way into the ground, and as police officers recognised the danger, an exit gate was opened to relieve the pressure. In the 5 minutes Gate C was open, about 2,000 fans passed through. Some found their way into the outer pens of the stadium, but a large proportion headed straight for the tunnel in order to get into the pens directly behind the goal, that unbeknownst to them were already overcrowded. The steep gradient of the tunnel meant fans moved quickly. Some spoke of being swept through, others tried but couldn't turn back.
People just rushed through the gate, many of them holding the tickets up like I was. We all had tickets. Obvious direction was down the tunnel. It wasn't closed off. It's a steep 6-in-1 gradient down. Really steep gradient, really steep drop. People were losing their footing. There was that many people in there, and people did fall down. And there were some that died in the tunnel. I was near the top of the pen, just by the tunnel, and there's a fence that runs downwards, which splits pens 3 and 4, and I was right against the barrier. And as people come in from the back, I was being pushed further and further against that barrier. My chest, hurting.
It was very joyous before the game with the usual songs and banter between the two sets of supporters and lots of good support for Liverpool. And then I think before probably it started, the game had kicked off, and the atmosphere, I think, just started to, there was something about it, and I'm trying to remember the time frame itself, but I just felt that something wasn't quite right. And then obviously when we started to see people climbing on fences and all that, we knew things were going disastrously wrong.
I remember the game kicking off, didn't see much. I remember Peter Beasley hitting the bar at the other end of the ground, and that's when another massive surge come, and I was really, the chest was really in deep pain then. I screamed in agony, and I managed to just get a bit of space between, from the back to relieve the pressure, but not much. And before that I had actually fallen down on the floor, and the guy picked me up.
The pressure in the pens built up, the crowd surged forward, voluntary movement was made difficult. As the match kicked off, fans feared for their lives, as they watched those around them collapse and in some cases die. Desperate to escape, fans climbed their way out of the pens over perimeter fences, spilling onto the pitch. Police feared a pitch invasion, a common occurrence in the 80s. 6 minutes in, the game was stopped. A horrendous blockage of bodies lay at the front of the pens. Those with strength left clambered over and staggered to safety. Many were hauled up into the upper tier, and some used their initiative to help those who were being laid out on the pitch in every way they could. Still treating it as a pitch invasion, a police line was formed across the pitch to protect Nottingham Forest fans.
I'm thinking to myself, oh God, I hope it's nobody trying to get on the pitch. Because I genuinely didn't know. I was about 7 rows back, so I couldn't see the wall directly between the lower part of the ground and the start of the seats. And that's where people were being pulled up. And I couldn't really see all of that because I was on the left-hand side of the goal as you look at the pitch, and this has started to happen on the right-hand side and the central pen. And it was a confusion, I'd say. I wasn't quite sure what was going on.
Eventually, when everything, long time, we managed to get down and through the gate at the bottom onto the pitch. Just running out, I saw the fans with the advertising orders using as makeshift stretchers, rushing, trying to aid the injured and the dying. A lot of people asked me if I was alright, and I just couldn't talk. I just wanted to, I was just in tears, really.
The phone went, and it was the office saying there'd been some trouble or disturbance at Hillsborough, and could I go down there, and they're going to get a camera to go down there. So there was no indication at that stage that people were dead or people were dying. It was just a case of we heard there's some trouble.
Fans were unhappy with the response of the police. As the situation became clearer, rescue services were called, but a lack of communication meant ambulances and fire crews waited outside the ground. The ground's gymnasium became a temporary mortuary, and later an area for body identification and police questioning to take place. For many, this is where the fight for justice began.
The radio heard all the reports of 50, 60, 70 dead. And apparently fans brought down the gate, and that's when I started screaming my head off in the car. That's a load of rubbish, I saw them open the gate, the police opened that gate, so I was really angry at that point.
It's something that, for the people of Liverpool will always be there. It was a terrible moment, and it's something that obviously they'll never forget. And from my point of view, it was something that, again, probably the most significant news event I've ever been at. So, it's something I'll never forget either.
Outraged by the nature of how the incident had been handled, support groups for the friends and the families of the deceased and the survivors formed almost instantly. Their fight for justice began with the inquest following the disaster. A verdict of accidental death was reached. Over the years, those affected by Hillsborough have stood by one another, fighting together throughout and grieving together, particularly in 1993 when another life was lost to Hillsborough.
Last couple of years, it's been good because I got in touch with Anne and Hope for Hillsborough. They've helped me a lot. A lot of survivors, talked to survivors, and people who's lost family and friends. So that's helped me.
140,000 people signed an online petition, an e-petition, to try and get this Hillsborough debated in the chamber of the House of Commons, and it resulted in a unanimous vote in favour of the motion that I put down, which meant that at long last we would get full disclosure of all the documentation that the people who'd signed this e-petition, that's what they wanted. I remember the families, I mean, you'd have to have seen the scenes afterwards with the families who'd come down en masse and were outside in the central lobby of the Houses of Parliament, crying and devastated and happy.
For each family and each survivor, justice is a different thing, whether it be a reopened inquest, a prison sentence served, or just a simple confession that someone was wrong. The Hillsborough disaster devastated Liverpool and scarred the lives of many in one way or another.